All right, so I'll give out my pick here for this week. I'm going to go with the Dallas Cowboys at home hosting the New York Football Giants. And I think the first number one concern coming into the season I had about this Giants team was that they didn't have an answer at that quarterback position. Yes, they drafted Jackson Dart and hoping that he's going to be the guy of the future or the quarterback of the future for this Giants team. And it's concerning when after week one, the Giants took the loss where they weren't able to find the end zone, that Brian Dable, the head coach, after 1 week wasn't able to, or wasn't ready to commit to Russell Wilson as a quarterback. Now that's changed over the past 24 to 48 hours. I guess Russell Wilson is going to start against Dallas here in week two there, but that short, I believe, is going to be very, 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 very short. And who knows, maybe we see a change at halftime um, for the Giants at the quarterback position. But Dallas, again, another team that's going to have extra rest. They played in that first game on Thursday Night Football against the Philadelphia Eagles, which was, very competitive. They got out early. And if it wasn't for maybe some CeeDee Lamb drops, that we'd be having a different conversation that maybe Dallas, went into Philly and won that game against the defending Super Bowl champions. But there's a lot of trends that also stick out about this Dallas Cowboys team against division opponents in specific and also against the New York Giants. So since 2016, when Dak Prescott has taken over as a quarterback for this Dallas Cowboys team, they're 22-5 straight up against division opponents at home, 20-7 against the spread. That's 74.1%. Now, in the same span since 2016, when they faced the Giants at home, Cowboys 8-1 straight up, 6-3 against the spread. And last 7 games that Dak Prescott has gone up against his Giants team in Arlington in Jerry World, they've won those games by an average of 15.4 points per game. Now, the only game that they didn't cover, which was a spread of more than 6 points, was back in 2020, where they only won that game by a field goal there. So, again, for the Giants, there was a lot of hype of how great this defense, is going to be because they have the playmakers on that side of the football. But at the end of the day, you still have to score points. And I don't think that the Russell Wilson led Giants right now are going to be able to do that here. So with the historical numbers and the trends there against the Giants, with Dak Prescott as a quarterback here for the Giants and having that extra rest, Cowboys are not a team that want to get down 0-2 on the season, because we know the numbers that teams that get down 0-2 have a very, very difficult chance or a very hard opportunity to make it into the postseason there. So I'm going to go Dallas -6 here, guys, against the New York Giants here. Uncle Dave, what are your thoughts on the Cowboys this week?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I talk a lot of times about narratives and whatnot, but you just look back at that Dallas loss at Philadelphia, and that didn't need to be a loss. I mean, I think it was 1.6 yards per play that they outgained the Eagles. They had more first downs. They converted about three-quarters of their third downs. I mean, they did not play a bad game, undervalued team, and you said it. I mean, all the talk about Jackson Dart and I hope they don't put him in Dallas. But I guess I hope they do because we're going to be on Dallas. But he's not ready. Too big a leap. But you mentioned it. They draft Abdul Carter, and all of a sudden we have a Lawrence Taylor type defense. But then they proceed to give up 220 yards on the ground to Washington, and then 200 yards passing to Washington. I mean, if Washington again, that game 21-6 doesn't sound bad, but if Washington doesn't commit 12 penalties, that game's not close. And if anybody watched that game, the eyeball test, that game was not close. So I could make zero case for the Giants. I don't like laying those kind of points in the NFL or in any football wager, to be honest with you. But I think that the Giants come a couple of more pegs back down to earth, and I kind of admit that I kind of bought in, said, well, we'll be better, but I'm not so sure that they are. So yes, I am 100% on Dallas with you.
Mac, any thoughts on the Cowboys this week?
Yeah, and we talked offline. I like Cowboys here. What made it from not being my best bet was nothing to do with the Giants, just teams in the situation that the Giants are in, which is getting embarrassed in week one. There are some trends that just generally favor that team to bounce back. Maybe the market overreacts, which we've seen in the market where this was 4, 3.5, 4 a week ago. Now it's 6 pretty much everywhere. DraftKings has a 5.5. which may be because they are barring everybody. They seem to have off numbers. So if you have DraftKings, definitely take advantage, even if you got to drive to Arizona, like my man Scott Seidenberg from time to time. But the reason I was on the Cowboys, and they probably will make my five of my five favorite plays of the week, is just how good their offense was. And Dave kind of mentioned that, they had more first downs, they had better yards per play. Dak Prescott was the second best quarterback in the NFL in week one by PFF's grades. They had 8 possessions. They really threatened to score on every one of them. They scored, 20 points in 8 possessions, which kind of belies how good their offense was. Like they would have scored 30, 35 points if it was a more back and forth game and it wasn't so methodical. But I definitely think you have to upgrade them. And I think what's really telling is last year when the Cowboys offense fell off a cliff and they fired Mike McCarthy and Dak Prescott had the worst season of his career, they won week one by 14 points or so against the Browns. Maybe even more than that, 31-15 or something like that. But on a per play basis, again, they were a bottom five offense that week. And if that's all you knew, that week one stat, you'd be very close to how good their offense would be the rest of the year. They were bottom five offense or bottom six offense. This year it's the opposite. They ended up losing a close game, but they were a top 10 offense in success rate. And again, Dak Prescott looked to be as good as he has been. He dominates division opponents, like you mentioned. I could only look at the Cowboys here.
Yeah, love it. Hopefully they do again cover this number here, -6 against the New York Giants. So again, just to recap, Jets we like against the Buffalo Bills at home. Right now, contest line is sitting at 6.5. But again, if you're betting it, definitely look around, get the best number. Also like the LA Chargers -3.5, the contest line right now over the Super Contest, and then the Dallas Cowboys -6 against the New York Giants, hosting them in this division game.